Hi, I'm Dr. David Pearl from limerence.net and welcome to this video. I want to address very early on in this series this concept of the soulmate. When I'm working with clients, so often I hear them tell me that they've met their soulmate, the perfect match to make them feel complete, to feel whole. Whenever I hear that, I internally sigh, because for me, I don't believe in the concept of soulmates. But first, a bit about attraction. But why are we attracted to certain people? Why do we sometimes feel that magnetic pull, especially if there's a physical attraction? What is it about attraction? Well, I think we have to explore the evolution of desire to fully understand attraction. How have we evolved over tens of thousands of years of development to a place where we've got to now? Well, it's pretty simple. Our programming is deep in our core. It's a bit like a computer that has, at its most basic level, the firmware, the core operating system that is pretty hard to change. And that is fixed deeper within our brain, within our emotional brain, the limbic system. It's very simple, really. Men are looking for good eggs because they want strong, healthy eggs to have their offspring the best chance of survival. And that for a man is signified by beauty, by facial symmetry. And these things are innately wired within us. Most men, when they're completely honest, they will always notice a beautiful woman as she passes by. Just as the fight or flight system is wired within us, or we're wired to like nice food, to like fatty food, sugary foods. We don't like rotten food, stale food, because that's not going to help with our survival instinct. And for women, they're wired to look for security needs. Tens of thousands of years ago, when we were hunters and gatherers, a woman that had babies would have a lower chance of survival if there was not a man there to protect her, or maybe a group of men. And so these are evolutionary adaptive mechanisms to give us the best chance for our offspring to survive. Because when you think about it, when all is said and done, that is the only reason why we're really here, is to keep the species going. If a species doesn't survive, it becomes extinct, gone forever. So that core element is part of attraction. My belief is attraction is way deeper than that. Why with limerence do we get this strong magnetic pull to another person? What is that about? It has to be way more than just physical appearance for a man, or the strength and the security that a man might provide for a woman that's part of the innate wiring. My own belief is that it comes from our unconscious. And I'll be talking more about the unconscious in a separate video, because I think it's fundamental to the work that I do as a therapist and as a coach, but also I think it's fundamental as to why we get limerence. The unconscious is a bit like an iceberg, where 10% of what is conscious in our world is visible, is we can make sense of. But the other 90% is underneath the surface, and we're completely clueless as to what that is. My own belief is that when we get these strong attractions to other people, it's our early life wounds that are somehow communicating with each other in a way that perhaps we're just not aware of. Or maybe we're picking up tiny signals, micro signals from the other person that again, we're not conscious of. What is it that we're picking up on? I mentioned before in my own story that for me, the initial trigger for when I met my own limerent object was her perfume, her smell. That was really powerful. I didn't know what the perfume reminded me of, but it certainly, I think, was triggering something early in my life. I remember we had a babysitter who I was very fond of, and I even remember her name, Dorothy. And I just wondered, maybe she wore a similar perfume. Who knows? But these unconscious triggers, which are way more than just smell, their behaviors, their little tells, little cues that the other person give off, I think somehow we're connecting with them in a way that makes that attraction really compelling. Another part of attraction is that the limerent object is showing us something in our shadow. And again, I'm going to do another video on the shadow. It's such an important part to understand of this journey to recovery. Basically, our shadow is where we put all the parts that we want to hide, deny, and repress. It's the parts that we don't want to take responsibility for. And they're in all humans. We can't avoid them. All our judgments, all our biases. But we also put all our gold in there as well. All the qualities that we find hard to take responsibility for because we might have been taught that's boastful or being arrogant. And so we suppress that. We pull it down. We hide, deny, and repress what's in our shadow. But I do believe that the limerent object is showing us qualities in our shadow, both the gold and maybe some of the dark stuff as well. But it's also showing us there's a belief with Jungian psychology, and I do like Carl Jung. He was a contemporary of Freud. But he said that the soulmate, meeting the soulmate, is when we meet the contrasexual aspects that are in us, but we see them in somebody else. So for a man, he meets a woman, and she holds the feminine qualities that are in him, but he's buried and repressed so deeply because he's been taught that they're wrong, bad. He might be vulnerable, he might be weak if he expresses those qualities. And the same for a woman in a man. And the same for a woman, where the man will hold the masculine qualities that are in her, but in her shadow, where she suppressed them and pushed them down for similar reasons, because she's been taught as a child, likely, that they're not good qualities for a woman to have. So there's this meeting of shadow qualities that I think so often gets activated with limerence. If you read around on the internet, you'll read about twin flame theories. You'll read about wound mates, which is what I'm talking about here, but where wound mates can be good and healthy wound mates to help us grow. Or they can be the wound mates that trigger and keep us repressed. My own experience is that wound mates are wound mates. There's no twin flames, there's no soulmates. And my belief that that is the case is born out of just the statistics. If you look at the failure rate of second marriages, something like 70% fail. The other 30%, I wonder how truly happy they are. And the failure rate for third marriages is around 80%. It's really high. So I think the chances of you finding your soulmate and sailing happily off into the sunset, as in some Disney or Hollywood movie, is pretty unlikely. The odds are against you. And the reason is because you take yourself with you. You take all that unconscious stuff that we're totally unaware of with us on that next journey. And just to give you an example of the power of the unconscious with myself, I like to think I've done a lot of work, perhaps just a little bit more self-aware than the average person, a little bit more conscious of what's going on below the head level, here internally in my feelings. And last week, my wife noticed that I'd moved chairs in our kitchen. I was sitting in a different chair. For 20 years, I've sat in a chair that faces the TV when I have my breakfast. And I'd moved to a different chair. This chair faced out into our courtyard, where I could watch the sunrise in the morning. Well, that's what I told myself. And then my wife commented that about 3 months ago, our eldest daughter and her fiancé had moved back home during COVID. And her fiancé was sitting in that chair. I think you can see where this is heading. And she said to me, has it occurred to you that maybe as the alpha male of the house, that you're laying your scent by moving chairs, unconsciously saying to him, hey, you don't sit where you want, you sit where I tell you to sit. Years ago, I would have said, oh, that's all psychobabble bullshit, don't believe in that. But you know what? The fact was, I didn't look out to watch the sunrise in the morning. I was still just looking across that way at the TV to watch the breakfast TV. So even somebody like myself who's done a fair amount of work can still get tripped up by the unconscious. And as Jung says, until we make the unconscious conscious, we will keep repeating and call it fate. And I do truly believe that's the case. So if nothing else from this video, I want you to really understand that However much it might feel like you've met your soulmate, the answer to all your dreams, this person who's going to make you feel complete and whole, it's a myth. That work has to come from within you, from deep within you. He or she, the LO, is just a mirror showing you what you're not seeing in yourself, what you've buried in your shadow, what you've hidden, you've denied, you've suppressed. And it's a wonderful opportunity for growth. However, it's a journey that will have many ups and downs. We all fall off the wagon at times. It's part of this journey. It's normal. That's a bit about the soulmate and what I believe to be the soulmate myth. And I'm going to finish on a quote from Eat, Love and Pray. People think a soulmate is your perfect fit, and that's what everybody wants. But a true soulmate is a mirror. The person who shows you everything that is holding you back. The person who brings you to your own attention so you can change your life. A true soulmate is probably the most important person you'll ever meet, because they tear down your walls and smack you awake. But to live with your soulmate forever? No, far too painful. Soulmates, they come into your life just to reveal another layer of yourself to you and then leave. A soulmate's purpose is to shake you up, tear apart your ego a little bit, and show you your obstacles and addictions. Break your heart open so new light can get in. Make you so desperate and out of control that you have to transform your life. And then they introduce you to your spiritual master.